Well, I grew up in a trailer park, so I won't be as concise and clean as you are on this. But I did, and it was very, not bad for a librarian, doesn't know what she's doing, so you did a very well job.
Thank you.
Based on the charter. And some of this will overlap, but I'll just show you how asinine this document, especially coming from Jeff, who's a very bright guy, how bad this was. And then how for these members, and I know most of them, they're pretty bright, just to jump on this and saying, we got $400,000 day one of extra money to spend. The financial disclosure was, of course, we don't see anything, but was submitted last night there was a meeting. It was supposed to be upstairs, but I couldn't figure out where the hell it was, so I don't know if it was here or somewhere else, but it wasn't there.
This, sir?
Yeah, so they moved it without telling anybody, but that's fair enough. I'm sure it's on video, or I'll try to look at it. And as the Commissioner rightfully said, $391,000 based on this fiscal disclosure summary will be saved if we go from the commission form of government to a new city manager, mayor, council form of government. Just so you understand, because when I met with this commission, I worked with these guys. I did want to get involved in this. It's like the mob. They just pull me back in. I like most of these men and women, all of them actually, that are on this commission. I worked with them. I basically worked with them drafting, putting the letter together to go to the county. I mean, I made the language basic. I could have been a pain. I could have put a vote in front of the council and we could have made it 400 words. I've been very fair, I believe, with this commission. But again, in the commission form, the mayor and the 4 commissioners have dual roles. They have this role, which they meet twice a month, and then probably add another 5 or 6 times due to budget meetings or emergency meetings. So they probably meet 30 times a year here, and the rest of their time is running the office with the help of their, I would basically call their managers, their deputies. I can't speak for the other departments, but I can tell you 80 to 85% of my work, because I am a licensed city assessor, that's part of being my job. I'm the city clerk. I have assistants for these. I'm in charge of risk and safety. I would say 80 to 90% of my hours are put in running my office. And this is showtime twice a month. And that, some people, maybe it's 50-50. I would guess Commissioner Scirocco is probably 95% of the time, because I see him up 6 o'clock in the morning driving around, and I see him 8 o'clock at night, and after events and whatever. I'm smarter than him. I took the easier job of the 5, but you know, he likes it. What the hell? But let me just give you and under the 32 hours is our recommended based on New York State hours for the commissioners and the mayor. I know Mayor Yepsen works a lot more than 32 hours. And I know most of you, me, I'm right about 32 hours, but the rest of you put a lot of hours in, okay? But let's say 32 hours just to be fair about this. If you work 40 hours a week, 50 weeks, because you take, some people get vacation, that's a 2,000-hour work week, okay? So if we take 5 full-time deputies, and trust me, most of the deputies work more than 2,000 hours, but let's just say 2,000 hours, that's 10,000 hours. If we take 4 commissioners at 32 hours a week, at 50 weeks, that's 6,400 hours. And if we take the mayor at 1,600 for the year, those total equal up to 18,000 hours a year. All right. Now, let's take 30 meetings. 30 just works out at 360, 1/12. And let's say 1/12 of our work relates to putting the dog and pony show here. All right. So we take 18,000 hours and I take 1/12. That's about 1,500 hours a year relate to doing this, and 16,500 hours relate to running our offices. Now, if you take the 5 times the deputies plus benefits, I'm going based on their numbers, 568,000. You take the 4 commissioners plus benefits, that's 130,000. I don't know if Commissioner Scirocco is getting health benefits because he's on Medicaid. Maybe he gets it as a backup.
Medicare.
Medicare. Yeah. Well, Medicaid after this job.
I get it from my
right
from the city.
Right.
My
So
retirement.
just look at. I know it's numbers, and numbers aren't really important, but it's wrong because he's not getting it. He's getting it because he's retired from you know.
Medicare, though, not Medicaid.
Right. No, I understand. I was just joking about the Medicaid, just the pants and the thing. He's going to be poor from this job. I understand the difference, but thank you. And the mayor, they said they're going to save $26,000 or lose $26,000 because the mayor's salary is going to go up. I don't know if they took benefits into the mayor's portion because I don't think they're really going to lose 26, so that actually hurt them a little bit. That's $672,000. And what they're telling us, okay, that's at the 16th, they're telling us one manager at $194,000, which includes benefits, is going to be able to take, who's only going to work 2,000 hours, all right? It's going to work 1/10 the hours, is going to be able to do the work of all these people. That is what this document states. Now, Bill Belichick couldn't get this done in the NFL, all right? It's just infeasible, impossible, and it's not true. And let's hope this proposed super city manager person with the S on his or her chest never quits, never gets ill, and clearly never dies, because there's no assistance, there's no other cost here. So this is how ludicrous this financial disclosure is. Now, it was brought up, Mr. Altamari had 4 disclaimers and what I would call one best faith effort statement from his SEC days. All right, I didn't get to listen to this. I've only heard this secondhand. But I do have, never got this. I had to get this. Commissioner Madigan was nice enough, had to photo it to get it to me because I couldn't even get it printed out. Here's his first disclaimer. The above is basically strictly on provisions of the proposed charter that give rise to cost and savings differences from the current charter. All right. No attempt is made to conjecture about cost and savings that may be the result of future actions by a council manager government. The above does not include any cost that may be incurred transitioning from a commission to a council member manager form of government. And the above are strictly estimates and no guarantee of savings. Now, and then lastly, he puts in here, the figures reflect herein were collected by the Charter Review Commission through its best faith efforts from sources in the City Hall. And the best faith efforts were, believe were put therein for a reason. He was mentioning, based upon brief discussions before the meeting, about safe harbor.
SEC safe harbor regulations.
SEC.
Lots of conversation about
safe
that.
harbor, which has nothing whatsoever to do with the municipality. Okay, Securities and Exchange has zero to do with this. This is the position he was in as an EFO, CPA. I know he's a smart guy. I've met with him. He's very bright. I work with safe harbors in the income tax law. What a safe harbor is if things are too onerous and to figure out, the IRS will say, well, as long as you follow this kind of rule of thumb, we're not going after you. Okay? It's a safe harbor rule where they cannot come and prosecute you because they gave. So instead of figuring out if this item should be capitalized or not capitalized and expensed, there's 1,000 rules, or if it's less than $5,000, you're okay. That's a safe harbor rule. Safe harbor relating to under SEC rules, there's many of them, but I believe what he was talking about is under SEC, safe harbor provisions protect management from liability for making financial projections and forecasts in good faith. I'll repeat this again. Under SEC rules, safe harbor provisions protect management from liability. That means they're not liable for making financial projections and forecasts, sound familiar? In good faith. The figures reflected herein were collected by the Charter Review Commission through its best faith efforts. Isn't that coincidence? He's using his old SEC rules, all right? Well, here's the problem. This is not good faith or best faith efforts. This is completely just the opposite. So even under SEC safe harbor rules, you'd be in big trouble because this is not a best faith effort. This is not a legitimate financial disclosure. This cannot be paid by the city. If you're going to do it correctly. It doesn't have to be 100 pages, but do it correctly. And you have to give your best faith. And am I missing something? Does anybody outside the planet Mars really believe that one person's going to be able to do all this work? It's just not going to happen. The Achilles heel, this is the third charter change that's come in my 12 years. And the Achilles heel on all 3 of them has always been this. It's been the fiscal impact study. It was the Achilles heel with Val Keynes. That was a $750,000 day one savings, which I, in my youth, went and debunked in about 8 seconds to the point where 2 or 3 of the members threw a document, somebody threw a hammer at me. But I was a little quicker than he missed. Under Pat Kane, we had to go to lawsuits on it because they refused to do it, and to go through numerous lawsuits, which they found out they didn't have to do it. Then when they did it, which is basically the same document we're looking at now, this was the manager form of government, failed in 23 out of 25 districts. Now, we're putting lipstick on a different pig here, and we're trying to say that we're going to save $391,000, of which all of it really has to do with the deputy savings. And we're not taking any transition costs into it. It's the Achilles heel to this process. Now, there are some very strong arguments for changing the charter. A potential of getting more people involved, I think, is a very strong argument because, one, they're going to go from 5 to 7. 2, separating the duties so that people can just focus on this function here. Given the ability of the average person to run that really can't run because, you know why? Because they can't be strapped to doing all this work, which apparently we're not doing anymore. You can't have the arguments both ways. I mean, with all due respect, this financial summary wouldn't be usable in an outhouse, and I'm ashamed of it. And if this city cannot pay for this, as you know, in charge of purchasing, I would never okay this. They need to go back and do a truthful one, showing transition cost, not trying to say, well, you know, we can do what we want. It's really going to be up to somebody in the future. That's what they need to do. And I hope they do that very quickly. I can't, again, speak for everybody else, but I don't see how we could pay for this to be attached to any mailing when it's not legitimate.